a wound medal. So when we were doing, as we spoke about Siachen, then we started Sri Lanka. We had 57 Division, which was expert in jungle warfare. We picked up that division and launched in Sri Lanka, while the operations in the northeast continued. And that is where Colonel Pillai had an encounter in Manipur with the NSAN IM group. And he will explain in the same sequence how the Indian Army has been fighting all over every cardinal direction. Colonel Pillai, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, the Valley of Words, also Dr. Sanjeev Chopra and Mrs. Rashmi and all the organizers for getting me here and sharing the stage with such distinguished people and to be with you all. It reminds me of my time as a young boy when I wanted to join the army way back in 1984 when I joined the India, just like you all in NCC uniforms, and it's a very different India that we lived in, you know. So before I explain my encounter and to explain why I would rather allow myself to be, not evacuated and save the lives of children, you must know what made me join the army. I joined the army not because I hated we were in an insurgency campaign, we were against our own citizens, like an idea that we have from 1947, sir, explained to you that we have been constantly at war, we had enemies on our border, and we had enemies who worked inside our country, who tried to get our people against us. So we always knew when we are in insurgency, whether it's in Kashmir, Punjab, Manipur, Nagaland, Assam, that we are fighting against our own people. And we can never hate the people that we fight against. We take up our arms because we love our country, we love the diversity that this festival celebrates, we loved our multicultural country, we love everything that is there. That's why my father, my grandfather, and we all joined the armed forces to protect what we all value. So when I went into that encounter, there was these two young children who were wounded. There was no way, General Pannu had explained, and this is the place, Dehradun. In IMA, we have our ethos there, which is mentioned, the safety, honor, welfare of your country and countrymen come first always and every time. And that's why when I saw those two young children who were wounded in the crossfire in an encounter in which they had no role to play, I had nothing better to do, as I would, like any other officer of the army or any other soldier would do, is to insist on their evacuation and their protection. And that's why, and what has happened in the end is that we did what we were supposed to do. We followed the law of the land. That's what General Pannu said, where we gave back 93,000 prisoners of war, which was captured by us in Bangladesh. We treated them with a lot of dignity and humanity, and we gave them back. And that's the same way we treat all our, those people who surrender. I think that's what we've been taught in the army. We treated the soldiers, insurgents who were there, we treated them with dignity that we would, any fighting, because we don't take our enmity beyond the boxing ring. It's like we are taught in the academy, what happens in the ring stays in the ring. It was well fought, right? The encounter was over. And many years later, the villagers called me back, remembering that encounter, remembering that two children were saved here, remembering that I almost lost my life because I had 4 bullets in my chest. But yes, I allowed those. So they called me and made me an honorary member of that village. Today I've retired, I go back there and work. For me, I feel very proud to be in this country, to be an Indian, to see where our country is. What I grew up in 1980s, 70s, India is so different from the India that we are in. It's all grown in strength, and I'm very proud to be an Indian, and I'm willing to join the army once again and become a soldier again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel Pillai. So beautifully explained about your sentiments of joining the army and your operation. And we continue. I think India is on the move, and we are continuing to fight our own challenges and battles. May I request General Gurung to please conclude today's discussion.
Thank you, General Pannu. See, all I'll say is that military history is replete with tales of valor, grit, courage, josh, junoon, jazba, जैसे कहते हैं. And I'm sure you all would have heard of the Battle of Saragadi, fought on the 12th of September 1897 in then northwest frontier province, that is towards North Pakistan. And how 21 soldiers of a Sikh battalion contested against 12,000 Afghan rebels. Now the Battle of Saragadi is considered to be one of the best stands in the annals of military history. And that, I think, is a very, very proud thing for us to remember. The battalion is nowadays known as 4th Battalion, the 6th Regiment. Those 21 soldiers that fought the 12,000 Afghan rebels were all awarded the Indian Order of Merit, which those days was equal to the Victoria Cross, because the Victoria Cross was had not been instituted at that time. So this battalion still boasts, and rightfully so, of 21 Victoria Crosses that they won in the Battle of Saragadi. Now that is an example of valor. You know, that is what I want the NCC cadets and the school kids who are sitting at the back to try and remember. If you want to get into the army or into the defense services, you have to remember this. Unless you have the motivation, unless you have the jazba, unless you have the junoon, you cannot serve in the army. The army, if at all, whenever you choose your careers, whenever you list out your career options, the defense services have to be topmost. Then only can you are able to serve better in the defense services. Otherwise, there will be a problem for you. If you list the defense services as your third or fourth choice, कि पहले मैं IIT करूँगा, पहले मैं IIM try करूँगा, फिर नहीं हुआ तो then I'll get into the defense services. Then I think you'll be a loser. The right way, like I said, is to make the defense services your first option and keep your motivation high. Success does not come occasionally. Just remember that. Success will come if you perform consistently. Just remember that and keep at it and give the defense services a shot as your first option. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General Gurung, for a very lovely conclusion. I would say when we celebrate diversity, we are celebrating valor in diversity. कोई सिख, कोई जाट मराठा, कोई गुरखा, कोई मद्रासी, सरहद पे मरने वाला हर खून था हिंदुस्तानी. Thank you, value of words. जय हिंद.
आसान नहीं है फौजी कहलाना, आसान नहीं है फौजी कहलाना, दोस्त जज्बातों को पिघलाकर रगों में लोहा भरना पड़ता है. The living example of this is Lieutenant General Shakti Gurung, who lost his son. Give him a huge round of applause. He's sitting here and discussing and narrating the war histories. Brigadier Gurung. It was really thrilling to listen the war stories. NCC cadets read war histories as a part of their syllabus. And here we have wartime heroes who narrated their incidences right in front of you, how the enemy was standing and how, in spite of being wounded, they were there to protect their nation. Before we end this session, I would invite General Pannu to present the souvenir of this event, the Literature Festival. Lieutenant General Shakti Gurung. Thank you, Brigadier. Thank you, General Gurung. Brigadier Gurung. It was really giving me goosebumps. These war heroes were relating their stories of Siachen valor and Sri Lanka. Brigadier Bisht. And Colonel D.P.K. Pillai. Thank you, sir. No duty is more urgent than giving the vote of thanks, than giving the thanks or returning the thanks. Thanks to all these war heroes, thanks to all those our soldiers who are standing there guarding our nation and giving us peaceful nights and peaceful days. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.